15,000 people gathered for prayer. Someone else came with an unholy plan. 12 suspected far-right extremists arrested for targeting one of Britain's largest Islamic gatherings. The event went ahead. The attack, police say, never did. Now investigators are asking one question. How close did Britain come to another act of terror? "15,000 people gathered under one roof in the English countryside. Somewhere outside, a plot was taking shape to turn that gathering into a target. British police say they have arrested 12 people over a suspected extreme right-wing plan to attack an Islamic religious event, a threat serious enough that officers moved in over the weekend before it could unfold.
Shocking news that counter-terrorism police are investigating a credible, serious threat targeted at an Islamic event in Suffolk. Thanks to the quick action taken by police and the organisers, nobody was hurt. My message is clear. I will not tolerate any attacks on our Muslim communities or any form of anti-Muslim hatred."
Interior Minister Shabana Mahmood addressed the arrests directly, acknowledging the fear they would stir among British Muslims.
"I know this is deeply concerning news for British Muslims. We must stand against hatred, and we must unite around our shared belief in a country that is open, generous, and tolerant to all our communities."
The event ran from July 9th to 12th at a country house in Suffolk, eastern England, drawing thousands of attendees across 4 days. It mostly went ahead as planned, only cutting short on the final day as the threat came into focus. Officers made the arrests across England on Sunday and Monday, once counter-terrorism teams flagged what they called a potential serious threat to the gathering. 8 men remain in custody, held under the Terrorism Act. 3 more men face charges of conspiracy to murder, and a woman has been arrested on suspicion of assisting an offender. Those detained range in age from 27 to 60. Police are now searching addresses in London, the surrounding areas, eastern England, and near Manchester. Britain raised its national terrorism threat level to severe back in April, a signal that officials considered an attack highly likely. Counter-terrorism Police Chief Helen Flanagan called July 13th's arrests a stark reminder of exactly that warning. For now, investigators are staying quiet on the finer details, the identities of those held, the exact nature of the threat, how close it came to being carried out. What is clear is the scale of what was potentially at stake. A religious gathering of 15,000 people and a plot authorities say was extreme right-wing terrorism related.
Mr. Speaker, people are rightly sickened by the horrific attack on Monday night in North Belfast. As you have just said, the man arrested has been in court in Belfast this morning and charged. I want to thank the Police Service of Northern Ireland and other first responders and members of the public who responded with such bravery. And our thoughts are with the victim. But let me be clear, Mr. Speaker. The acts of violence and arson that followed are totally unjustified. This morning I spoke with the First Minister, the Deputy First Minister and the Chief Constable. And the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland is meeting leaders in Belfast today. We are united in calling for calm and determined to restore order, support the police and all those on the front line, and ensure that justice is done.
The scenes in Belfast are deeply, deeply disturbing. A man is in hospital after a brutal attack, and now families are frightened after a night of violence. There is a live criminal case, so we must be careful about what we say. But we can be clear about this. People have a right to be angry. I am angry. And people have the right to expect their politicians to secure our borders. But no one has a right to burn families out of their homes or to burn public property and attack the police. We all have a duty to stand up for public safety in every way.
But, Mr. Speaker, turning to those horrific scenes in Belfast, too many times we see the same pattern. An appalling crime that makes us all feel immense pain and anger, and then extremists who exploit that grief and anger to spread hatred and violence, aided and abetted by social media barons like Elon Musk and their divisive algorithms. Does the Prime Minister agree this is not who we are as a country, and that it is not free speech if it's controlled by tech billionaires and their algorithms? So will he crack down properly on platforms like X that are fueling violence and hatred?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we will crack down on anyone who's fueling this division. But it is really important, and I agree with him, we are heading into a very difficult situation in Northern Ireland. As I say, I've spoken to the Chief Constable, the First Minister and Deputy First Minister this morning. They are united in saying we should all be calling for calm. The police are on the front line, and it's our duty as politicians to call for that calm, and nobody who's a politician should be whipping up division and hatred.
The North Belfast attack on Monday was medieval. It was sadistic, and it's sadly been viewed by millions in this country. As reprehensible as it was, the outrageous violence, intimidation and community damage carried out last night in my constituency and in other parts of Northern Ireland require the strongest condemnation. It is impossible to share concerns about damage to our British values and then act in a way that tarnishes the very thing we should want to protect. The government's job, our collective job, is to act, to protect our country and to defend our borders. The Prime Minister knows that the man charged entered our country illegally. He passed through 2 safe countries and attained asylum in record time. Will he meet with me urgently to discuss the steps he and his government will take to ensure our values are enforced, that the rule of law in this country sustains, and that he protects and closes the open, porous border between our country and the Irish Republic?
Prime Minister.
Can I thank the Right Honourable Member, and can I particularly thank him and all leaders in Northern Ireland who have urged calm, particularly before what happened last night. I think in standing together with that common message was very powerful. I thank him and others for what they did in that regard. I'm very happy to meet him and other MPs from Northern Ireland as he requests, and I think we've now identified a slot after Prime Minister's questions when we can do that. It is obviously important that we do at the first opportunity. We are all sickened by this attack, but the scenes of violence and disorder have no justification, and we need to be really clear about that. Of course there are questions that need to be answered, but destroying communities, destroying homes and driving people out of their homes is not and will never be the right way to respond to an attack like this. And I look forward to working with him and others to ensure that we get the calm response and give the police the space that they need to deliver justice. I haven't seen it yet, to look closely at it and follow it.
Richard Tice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and happy birthday. We all condemn, of course, the appalling violence in Belfast last night after the horrific attack on Monday. But this Prime Minister is in denial of the rising despair across the country over his failure to stop the boats and related criminality, his failure to recognise two-tier policing, his failures over Mandelson, his failures over the scourge of anti-Semitism. He's lost the confidence of the country, his own trade union members and his own very quiet backbenchers, Mr. Speaker. When will he do the right thing, and when will this Prime Minister resign?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, last week we had the terrible case of Henry Novak, which they sought to exploit. Now we have a very difficult situation in Northern Ireland where families and communities are extremely frightened. What do? They try to whip up fear and division, because that's all they've got. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If any member of the public wishes to visit a major sporting event or major music event,
they can expect to be searched on the way in. If they bring a bottle of water, the lid will be taken. If they order a drink from the bar, it will be served in a plastic cup. This is done for security reasons. Yet because of exemptions in the Offensive Weapons Act 2019, those same events permit the carrying of blades up to 5 inches long. I would just like to ask the Prime Minister, does he recognise the dangers and the risks associated with that? And does he recognise what a solicitor might call an exception, our voters would call two-tier justice? Yeah.
Well, Mr. Speaker, let me just be very clear. Any blade that's used to threaten or to harm others is illegal by law. Any blade. We will, of course, work with the Sikh community, knife crime campaigners and the police to learn the right lessons. That is the responsible thing to do. And I really do think we all have a responsibility, a duty as politicians, to respond to the case that we were discussing last week and the events in Northern Ireland that we're discussing today with the calmness that leadership requires.